typical concession period for most concessions. Whenever you do a concession, that's usually how long you give it. 25, anywhere between 25 to 35 years, also renewable. Right? But why do we do this? Because you see, most of these concession structures tend to be debt funded. So you would like the person who is, or the entity that is taken over, to be able to operate the entity and then recoup whatever they invested. Here we agreed that they should invest at least 130 million US dollars over a 5-year period, and we think that over 25 years they should be able to recoup the 130 million, and then give it back to government after that. So, but what are our benefits in the interim? They are numerous, as you can imagine. That one will have a revitalized CSC. A CSC will come back again. That's what we expect. That the abattoirs, again, they will begin to be functional. The ranches will be functional, and that CSC will also enter into a sort of an equivalent of an outsourced scheme, outgrower scheme on the cattle front, to make sure they can work with farmers to outsource the breeding of cattle. So to really revitalize all of that infrastructure, which is going to waste over time. The company will employ people. It will start exporting. So the company should be able to export to places like China, Botswana, and Angola. In fact, they've indicated that in terms of market. So the benefits are incredible for the economy. And really, it's not about who is operating it. Are they operating it well? And that's what we're looking to do. That's why we're to put it out there, and Bostad came on top in terms of the company that can deliver the benefits that we expect. So we're happy with the progress so far, and we as government are supporting them to make sure they can really resuscitate CSC to its former glory. Recall visiting one of the just United refineries, where they make, for instance, soap, and that this soap comes from the fat from the animals that were slaughtered at CSC. This used to be the case. And now they can no longer access that simple raw material to feed into industry just to make soap, because CSC had collapsed. And we'd like CSC to come back and be able to supply that raw material. What I'm talking about here is the backward and forward linkages that CSC also should be able to develop and used to have between itself and various industries within our economy. So the upside is enormous, and really we should not be too concerned about the concession period. We'll be able to get our value for money on this one. Then maybe while I have the microphone, let me just talk about Zupco.
Zupco, sure.
Yes,
you can do that.
500 buses from Belarus. These negotiations are still underway. These are certainly coming on board. Just watch the space and be patient. And it's not just Belarus. We are seeking to procure 100 buses from China, and then 200 buses from South Africa, and then obviously 500 from Belarus. Our intention is really in the interim is to have a target of about 1,000 new buses, and we also try to crowd in the local suppliers as well, so they're not left out of the bus supply program. But when Zupco is in full flight, when the new partner comes in, we expect the bus fleet to grow to about 3,000 and higher. Why do we think that? A mass transit system like this is key to urbanization. Zimbabwe's fastest growing city is obviously Harare, then followed by Bulawayo, and then the other cities. So we have a very high urbanization rate, and this is true of all of Africa's mega cities. They are the fastest growing cities in the world. And one thing that they need to be effective cities, they need good housing and planning around it, and then the facilities and other bulk services. But most importantly, they must cater for movement of people. So a mass transit system is key, and we in Zimbabwe see Zupco as the core to really developing a mass transit system. So we're very bullish about how this company could progress over time. Initially with the support of government, but then eventually we then offload this to a private investor. Now, we want to see a situation where the private investor, which answers the second question of Zupco, is able to take up a stake of 49% of Zupco, 49%. It used to be like that, by the way. It used to be like that until about 2004, and then it changed, and government took over 100% of the company. 49% used to be owned privately, and then the private group sold to the government. So we have no difficulty offloading 49% as government, but we expect we want a cash injection of no less than 250 million into the company through that sale of equity, and that will go a long way in revitalizing the infrastructure. So just in terms of infrastructure, I talked about buses alone. Infrastructure, you know, some of these, if you go to Renkini in Bulawayo or Zende Street, they're really dilapidated now. They need to be revitalized. If you go to Gweru, you know, the same, Kwekwe, the same, the facilities have been run down. These need to be revitalized. So part of this investment from the private operator will go towards revitalizing this infrastructure. Also, we expect the local authorities to play their part, because when you design a mass transit system, you expect a quick and uninterrupted turnaround of buses so they can move people around quickly. So they should, you know, put aside, designate certain, you know, lanes on our roads, and maybe even certain rates which are lower for the transport company, not to pay too high rates for local authorities. We expect them to come on board and support this mass transport system project for it to succeed, so that people can be moved quickly and rapidly in terms of wherever they want to go. So that's what we intend to do with the Zupco. It's really the core or the beginnings of a mass and modern transit system within our cities. I thank you.
Thank you very much. Just before you come